Hello, everyone, and welcome to Keeping It Real with Elevate Church DC. We would like to start tonight's discussion first by introducing all of our panel members. We'll start with Pastor Bunny.
I am Bunny Jackson. I am the pastor of Elevate Church DC. And I'm just going to say that I'm a boomer so that we can talk about generational too. So I'm a boomer,
Oh,
baby
generational
boomer.
differences tonight.
Yeah, I'm going to talk today. I'm a generation.
All right. Sister Kay.
Hi, I'm Kay Washington. I'm also a boomer, the extra boomer here on tonight.
An extra boomer. Oh, poor Alexis. Please introduce yourself. I feel like you're not a boomer.
Definitely not. I'm Alexis. I'm a millennial. So hopefully we agree on some stuff.
All right, this sounds great. So for those of you who are wondering why in the world would generational differences matter, tonight's discussion is about getting into good trouble. It's specifically about the quote that came from the late Congressman John Lewis. It says, get in good trouble, necessary trouble, and help redeem the soul of America. So of course, depending on everyone's perspective and purview, their opinions may very well vary. I'm excited about this conversation. Let's just jump right in, everyone, shall we? So let's start with, what does this quote that I just read, what does this quote mean to you? Get in good trouble, necessary trouble, and help redeem the soul of America.
Well, one thing that I would say, first off, when I think about trouble, I don't think about anything good about it. I think, I think getting yelled at, disciplined, getting, really uh, put aside is not, I don't think of anything good about it. But when I really thought about what the congressman said is he's talking about the types of stuff that will help the nation to be what it should be, a nation that's about peace and love and caring about other people. And we have so many people here with so many backgrounds that we could all help each other to grow and to learn um, and to be more educated and all those things that are things that we could do together. And so good trouble to me means stepping out of your comfort zone and moving into areas that um, are needed, that change is needed. I think he was saying, let's make a change. Let's do some things to change the hard things that are happening in America, in this nation, and let's help that to as individuals to do that.
Oh, it looks like you actually might have a little agreement from the millennial. It may not turn into be the little, disagreement that you are hoping for. I know you sometimes like to get into it and hear varying
Well,
sides of it.
usually I'm being attacked by millennials, so let's see what happens here. Let's see what
I
happens.
Can't disagree with John Lewis.
Anything you'd like to bring to what she said? Any additional words you'd like to set on the table?
I think my favorite part of the quote is that it's not just trouble, that it's good trouble. It's a very specific kind of trouble. And like Pastor Bunny said, it's for the goodness of society and the goodness of our neighbors, and that this kind of trouble is something that is necessary in order for that redemption. And I think like sometimes we don't really put the weight on the necessary part of that, of like, well, I don't have to, some people like to do advocacy, some people like to organize, some people, but that's not for me. And I think like one of the things that I think all of us can do, and anyone who's watching can do, is like there's always some kind of good trouble that you can get in somewhere, because there's a lot of things that need to change their society in so many different domains and circles.
I like your emphasis on necessary. It goes back to that, if not you, then who kind of concept. Like it's needed, it's definitely needed. And so if it is needed, then that means if you don't do it, it will remain undone. And there are definite consequences that come from that. Sister Kay, how would you like to add to that conversation?
You just said, if not you, then who? That is something my dad used to say all the time, and I couldn't think of the particular wording for it because it was something, I believe it's something he got from the Bible about how, if something was happening, then you needed to do something about it. You not just watch it happen. And so I'm glad you brought that up. But for me, I'm not like a political person, and I don't necessarily think about John Lewis or anybody else politically, but having good trouble, I guess for me, is just like Pastor Bunny said, getting out of your comfort zone. I and I guess getting out of my comfort zone is doing some of this, just talking about it, being able to say something to other people without just holding it into myself. And I think that's about it. Yeah.
I think that oftentimes we think about trouble as being the consequence, when really trouble isn't the consequence, trouble is the action. And that's why you can have good trouble, because it's all about the action that you're taking and the type of action. It's not about the consequence of the action, right? And so I think that's something to kind of maybe think about. What type of good action can you do to change the current climate, to change the current narrative for that next up and coming generation?
Yeah, I like the way you say that because, growing up, I always thought of trouble as something bad. But when you think of it as an action, as something to move forward on something, and you put good in front of it, it's a good action that's going to help other people and it's going to help you too. It's not just you that other people. You go out there and you do things, and it's just for them. No, it's for all of us. And so when you think of it that way, that really kind of clicked for me because like I said, growing up, it's like go to your room, trouble, you got in trouble, or your siblings be saying, "Ooh, you got in trouble," and you thinking all the bad stuff. But when you think of it as an action, because that's what you did something to get into trouble. So if you make it good and you make that action something that's relevant and that's life changing, you can really make a difference in people's lives. So I love the way you brought that up, Reverend Ojo.
Thank you. Speaking of Reverend, what do you think that quote should mean to the church specifically?
You know,
Oh,
I well, I think when you think about that, we talk about redemption, and we're all about redemption. However, we get comfortable in ourselves and don't want to get involved. We just sit back. So I think the church needs to take the action,
Mm-hmm.
to do some of the things and make some of the comments and stand up and speak out on things that are affecting people across the board. I mean, we have so many things happening right now. We got the racial divide, we have housing issues, we got income issues, we got all sorts of things. And I think the church at large sits back and just says, okay, you all take care of it. We'll just sit here and we'll be okay. You all go ahead, do your thing. But I think the church needs to also say, hey, this can't keep going on. We've got to take a stand. Jesus told us to love everybody, to care for each other, to do things for each other, put others in front of ourselves, and to love our enemies. How do we sit back and just let all this happen? So, this is a real touchy subject for me because I don't see on large scale the church taking a stand in these issues.
Mm-hmm. I think, like, to add to that, it's also this conviction to do it, even though it's going to get some negative attention, right? Like, you're not going to get in trouble if everyone agrees with you. You get in trouble because there's some kind of tension or disagreement there. So for the church to get in good trouble or like support good trouble means to go against some kind of majority. And I think sometimes we see churches that are more concerned with like their numbers of how many people come on Sunday, or having like really dynamic, great worship, or being charismatic, or like whatever it is, and not on that mission of redemption.
That's really good. That is very good. So then I want all of you to think about this, because, we have people who are watching, people who are interested, people whose minds are starting to churn and they're thinking, okay, what kind of good trouble can I get into? What type of good trouble do you think that the church can do? What are some practical things? I like how you said that, Alexis, for people to be mindful that as they're doing these acts of good troublemaking, as they're stirring the waters, that there will be some pushback, right? People need to be aware of that. But what type of actions can the church do specifically when we're talking about good trouble? And Kay, I definitely want to hear from you, because I definitely understand. I feel like I'm more aligned to you as far as not being a super political person. Like, I'm not that person who's going to like watch the news every Sunday, but I do realize that what happens, like you do, I realize that, our lawmakers influence things, but outside of, and we can't always rely on them, right? The church has a responsibility to step up. The church has a responsibility to make sure that people's voices are heard, right? We can't always rely on the people who are in office to create space. We have to sometimes demand it as the church. So what are those specific actions, especially for maybe a non-political person, that we can require, demand of our church, our local churches to do in our communities?
First of all, like me in particular, I'm going to have to get brave. The pastors are going to have to get brave. They're going to have to be able to be there for the people, to serve them, to be able to even just talk to them or allow them to talk. There may be subjects that they were afraid to talk about, but people need to hear about those subjects. And so those are some of the things. I think some, I guess it's showing now in Corona quarantine that a lot of pastors are just getting to the point of learning technology. They were hesitant before, and they're still a little hesitant. They're thinking, what's going to happen with somebody commenting on my post, or doing whatever that's opposed to what they're saying. But they're going to have to realize that God has their back. That if they're doing the right thing, if they're trying to help and trying to follow God's plan, then it's going to all work out.
I like that. I like that idea of being brave. I like that idea of stretching and learning something new. If you are watching and you have a church and you don't have any sort of social media internet presence in the year of our Lord 2021, after a full year of quarantine, we need to talk. I'm just saying, that's basic step number one to reaching the people. Kind of how, like you were saying, Sister K, you need to hear what the people are saying, right? You can't make trouble to benefit people if you don't know what it is that they need, right? A lot of the problem with the narrative of even social justice has been that we have allowed outsiders to tell us what we need instead of demanding that they listen to our needs. And so that's one of those things. It starts with the church. Church needs to take time to sit down with people and ask, what are your needs, instead of prescribing something that may not even, actually solve what the issue is. Anyone else? Sorry, I got in there a little bit. that's usually Pastor Bunny's role.
Yeah, I can add to what Kay said. I think there's also a role of, or a responsibility of church members to, if their pastor is going out of their comfort zone in making this good trouble or encouraging others to do good trouble, like there needs to be a level of trust from the members, especially when it's something like you don't necessarily understand. And so having trust with the members to the pastor, as well as just members listening to each other, especially in like a multicultural church or a multicultural setting. Like, I'm not going to understand what an Asian American experience is, because that's completely different from what I may have experienced. And so it's our responsibility as people in a diverse church to listen to those, our brothers and sisters in Christ, and stand with them.
I like that a lot. And, not everyone is as privileged as, we are. I also attend multicultural church. Not everyone's as privileged to have that opportunity. So one thing I would even suggest, maybe, if you are a church and let's say that you are you have a homogeneous kind of congregation, be intentional about befriending maybe persons or other pastors, congregations that maybe don't look like yours, figuring out how you can work together to, one, mend that racial divide that Pastor Bunny talked about earlier, but even two, to encourage those healthy conversations. And how can I be your brother and sister? How can I help you on your path to good trouble, whatever that may look like? Pastor Bunny, what are your practical?
I like what everyone has said, because it's really been. I think we are so deep into certain things we don't listen to people, and then when somebody steps out, we don't want to encourage them or go alongside to help them. And so, I think we really need to open our minds. The people of all the churches and all the places, all the religious facilities need to open up their minds to hear each other, to really listen and hear each other. It doesn't have to be, a fight. It's just a point of, I want to hear what you're experiencing. I can't relate to it, but I want to hear what you're experiencing. How can I? And then ask the question, how can I help? How can I? What can I do? What is it that I can move forward to alongside you to help redeem the soul of America? We all need to work together. It's a togetherness thing. It's not this group over here, this group over here, this group over there, this group over here. It's all of us coming together and saying, okay, we want to redeem the soul of America. We want America to be be a country where people have freedom to do the things that they need to do, to be the people they need to be, to have the safe environments that we need to have, to not be so afraid to go out of your house because you don't know what's going to happen, or get in a car um, and wonder what's going to happen in that car if you get this, certain things happen. So we need to work together and move forward with God as our guiding light, with Jesus directing us, the Holy Spirit guiding us on what we should do. But it's not we can't keep doing these little pockets here and there. We've got to bring it together. That's what the church needs to do. Become the church, not some churches.
Mm-hmm.
The church.
Yeah, I like
Can I
that.
say one more thing?
Of course.
Uh, there are a lot of times when we're talking about these different things and we're hearing about these different things happening, and people are getting upset about them. Even Pastor Bunny was a little upset the last couple of weeks. But but what happens is when someone asks you the question, how can I help, or what do I need to know or do, then we can't get mad at them just because it's been going that way for so long, and that it's not their fault necessarily, but at least they're putting forth an effort. So, give them a break when they ask you, at least what can I do or what can I say?
That goes back to the trust that that Alexis was talking about earlier. If someone asks, you have to trust that they're asking, of good intention, and take the time to educate. What they do with that knowledge afterwards then is between them and God. But you do have to. That was a very good point. Thank you for adding that.
Yeah, I just have a Google Doc with all the stuff. I'm like, here, check out the Google Doc.
Yeah, honestly, someone asked me that. They said, how can I raise my child to be more inclusive? And I was like, okay, you asked for it. Here are about 50 children books. They're at the library, or you can buy them on Amazon. So again, I do think that it's helpful. Maybe that's even another practical thing, that if you are a church in a community that needs help, already have an answer on standby. So when someone asks you, you already have a canned but effective, appropriate, a very good response, but something that you don't have to just say, oh, let me get back to you, something you can hand them right away, some resources that you can send them out the door with. So I think that's probably another practical thing. So any other last comments?
You said something about having something available or being able to see. The thing is, yeah, like you said, don't say I'll get back to you, because a lot of times we don't get back to people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we do that with prayer too. I'll pray for you. I'll pray for you. And by the time you get out of their presence, you have forgot about the prayer that
I'll pray for you was the prayer, didn't you know?
So you're right. We need to have things available, or say, let's go together and let's figure out what are some of the things that we need to do, because we can't keep letting this go on and on and on and just sitting back. We've got to be able to say, hey, here's how you can help. Let me show you how you can help. Here's what you can do. Here's what you can say, or come along with me. I need your backing. If you come with me, I can move forward too. I need your encouragement to help me down this path, or I'll go with you as you step out um, on speaking out on some of the issues that we're all facing right now.
I have a thing to add, or maybe a question, because it might be controversial. I think that some churches or like religious groups sometimes shy away from partnering with non-religious groups or groups with a different faith background. And I think it's important for us to work together for the same thing. And I think our witness is the strongest when we're witnessing with people who are not of the same faith as we are. So I think that's something to, like, people need to be just not afraid to do. Like, it's okay to be boldly saying, like, I'm doing this because it's for the God I follow. That's what he stands for. And that's why I do this. But I will walk alongside you, even though that's not necessarily the same view or motivation that you have.
I mean, that's how those relationships are built, right?
Right.
If we're not ever in a place where we can meet someone who doesn't believe the way that we believe, how will we ever build those relationships? So I think that that's a great point as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, as we conclude tonight, I would just like to, one, remind you that, again, the emphasis here is on good trouble, that which is necessary. Two, I'd like to remind you that our God is not afraid of trouble. I mean, Jesus kind of overturned tables when people were turning the house of God into a house of profit. So please know that when it is good trouble, when it is about reconciliation, when it is about redemption, when it is about turning people towards freedom, God, or turning people towards the heart of God, that he supports those moments of good trouble. And lastly, I would like to remind you that if you haven't heard or listened to any of the previous Keeping It Reels, they are available on YouTube and on Facebook. Also, always feel free to join Elevate Church DC Sunday at noon on Facebook. Have a wonderful day.